is Ash. Lethal and elusive. Quickly moving into and out of combat, he can be an unseen and deadly force. Ash is a reflection of ancient history, and his abilities an homage to the past. Seeking out targets, Shuriken launches a spinning blade of death. Smokescreen allows Ash to instantly vanish, while stunning and blinding enemies with a cloud of smoke. Teleport brings Ash directly in front of his target, allowing him to engage in melee close combat. Keep moving, Tenno. Bladestorm teleports Ash between a number of nearby enemies, delivering lethal strikes along the way. Utilizing mods to complement Ash's abilities will help him be neither seen nor heard on the battlefield. Equipping a strength mod will most benefit Shuriken and Bladestorm. Paired with an increased range mod, all of Ash's abilities will become more effective. Adding increased speed, stamina, and radar mods will give Ash a distinct advantage over his enemies. Ash can remain unseen, but his effects on the battlefield are felt by all. Keep an eye out, Tenno.
This is Banshee, stealthy and ranged. Using the deceiving power of sound, she can infiltrate nearly any situation. While not built to take damage, Banshee deals it out in spades. Sonic Boom can incapacitate or kill enemies in front of her with an armor-piercing shockwave that pushes them away. Reminiscent of ancient Earth technology, sonar reveals enemies to Banshee's entire team, revealing their weak spots and location. Silence allows Banshee to limit her enemies' perception and response times, causing attacks to go unnoticed by those affected. Cover your ears, Tenno. When Soundquake is used, Banshee releases ultrasonic waves to take out any enemies who dare enter its range. Banshee can be upgraded to enhance her effectiveness at longer range, or limited close combat situations. All of Banshee's core abilities will benefit from utilizing increased range mods. Using an increased strength mod will positively affect Sonic Boom and Soundquake's destructive power. Installing increased duration mods will most benefit Sonar and Silence, allowing Banshee to take more time formulating her attack plan. No one puts Banshee in a corner, Tenno. The element of surprise is in her favor.
This is Chroma, an ancient legend, master of the elements. Adaptable to any combat scenario, he reigns supreme over the battlefield. Chroma's abilities adapt to his energy color, drastically modifying their effects. Spectral Scream exhales deadly elemental breath, foregoing normal weapon use while active. Elemental Ward surrounds nearby allies with a reflective elemental shield. Fire gives additional health and adds a flame aura that deals additional damage. Electricity provides additional shields while storing some incoming damage, discharging upon nearby enemies. Poison adds a stamina boost, while also providing an aura that has a chance to poison nearby enemies. Ice applies additional armor, as well as an ice shield that reflects incoming fire, inflicting some damage to enemies. Vex armor converts any shield damage taken into an armor increase, and any health loss into a limited damage increase, perfect for leading the charge into battle. Free yourself, Tenno. Effigy sheds Chroma's pelt, which hovers in the air, defending against enemies with elemental attacks. While active, Chroma will gain speed, but loses a portion of his armor. All of Chroma's abilities are benefited by increased strength, while Spectral Scream and Elemental Ward become more effective with added range. Duration complements Elemental Ward and Vex armor. When all the land is in ruins, Tenno, only Chroma will remain. This is Ember, destructive and deadly. Sacrificing safety for reckless abandon, she erupts into battle. Ember's abilities offset her fragility with pure offensive capability. Fireball launches a fiery projectile towards your target, dealing high damage upon impact and moderate damage to any nearby who stumble onto the lingering flames. Accelerant blasts outwards from Ember, stunning nearby enemies while also making them more susceptible to fire damage. Fire Blast slams down a persistent ring of fire, dealing high initial damage to enemies within its radius when cast, and over time. Some just want to watch the world burn, Tenno. World on Fire follows Ember, causing fiery explosions while dealing high damage over time to a limited number of targets. Ember, by nature, is incredibly effective with flames, but the use of mods will help her become even more deadly. Adding strength mods will increase the damage output by all her abilities. Adding duration mods will benefit Accelerant and Fire Blast. Coupled with a range mod, World on Fire becomes even more effective. Ember's presence on the battlefield is devastating. Mind the heat, Tenno. This is Frost, colder and deadlier than space itself. Heavily armored and a master of sub-zero temperatures, the battlefield is his playground. Frost's abilities are built for both offensive and defensive roles. Freeze emits a directed energy blast that stops the target in its tracks, covering it in ice. Ice Wave sends a torrent of razor-sharp ice crystals towards enemies, dealing massive damage to and slowing its target. Snow Globe is the perfect defensive element. Anything caught inside will be surrounded by an impenetrable sphere of protection, deflecting all incoming projectiles. Tread lightly, Tenno. Avalanche summons a flurry of ice and snow that instantly freezes and shatters all enemies caught in its radius. Frost can be specialized into either an offensive or defensive tank. Upgrading Ice Wave and Avalanche, as well as installing strength and range mods, will allow Frost to provide an even greater offense. Snow Globe and Freeze, combined with duration, range, and strength mods, will strengthen his defensive capabilities. Frost can protect or punish. The decision is yours. This is Hydroid, a deadly mystery from the depths. Master of the aquatic, he surprises his enemies at every turn. Hydroid's abilities harness the power of water to devastating effects. Tempest Barrage calls down a torrent of liquid fury, dealing damage around the target area, Tidal surge sets Hydroid forth as an unstoppable wall of water, pushing enemies together and knocking them down, while dealing damage over time. Undertow casts Hydroid into an undetectable water trap, slowly drowning any enemies who venture within. From 20,000 leagues below, Tentacle Swarm summons a creature from the deep, violently wreaking havoc on your enemies. Hydroid's command of the seas can be further promoted via the use of mods. A duration mod will positively affect most of Hydroid's abilities, coupled with a range mod. Tentacle Swarm, Tidal Surge, and Tempest Barrage will influence a wider area. Finally, a strength mod will increase the deadliness of Tidal Surge against your enemies. Whether the sea or the stars, Tenno, Hydroid takes a foreboding command of the battlefield.
This is Loki, the trickster, the deceiver. He sacrifices durability in favor of speed. Mastering Loki is not about outgunning your opponents, it's about outsmarting them. Well equipped for confusing and distracting his enemies, Loki becomes an incredible asset to his team. Decoy allows Loki to draw enemy fire away from himself and his teammates, or to seek out a hidden threat. If there is trouble ahead, invisibility allows Loki to camouflage himself to remain undetected from sensors and cause extra damage on sneak melee attacks. To aid in your enemy's confusion or escape a tough situation, Loki can utilize Switch Teleport to trade places with his target, be it your enemy, a decoy, or even a teammate. When the battle intensifies, Tenno, Loki can use Radial Disarm to disrupt his enemy's weapons, forcing them to resort to melee combat. Loki can wreak havoc within the solar system if used correctly, and can utilize mods to enhance his abilities. Equipping range-extending mods will allow you to distract enemies from further away, or reach greater distances when a quick escape is required. Utilizing fusion cores to upgrade invisibility and radial disarm will help keep you hidden longer and cause an even wider radius of enemy malfunction. Whether you prefer to go into battle alone or with a team, Tenno, Loki will adapt to any style.
This is Mag, a force to be reckoned with. She is a master of all things magnetic and can tip the scales of battle in almost any situation. Mag operates in extremes, and her polarizing nature is reflected in her abilities. Pull allows Mag to bring her enemies closer and in range to be taken out. With Shield Polarize, Mag can deplete the shields of enemies within range, or restore an ally's, quickly turning the battle in her favor. When up against a greater foe, Bullet Attractor will magnetize the target, causing any bullet that passes nearby to immediately strike. If your target dies while still magnetized, the attractor becomes volatile and causes damage to anything in range of it. When the battlefield gets crowded, Tenno, Crush will magnetize the bones of your enemy, causing them to collapse upon themselves in a fantastic display of force. Employing mods will help to increase Mag's already great influence on the battlefield. Utilizing range-extending mods will allow you to pull an enemy within melee range from a much greater distance. Utilizing extended duration and range mods will increase the length of time and distance from which bullets will be attracted to your enemies. Focusing the power of your Warframe, as well as utilizing range-extending mods, will allow you to decimate enemies from further than ever before. Nag is a team player, Tenno, and a worthy addition to any squad. This is Mirage, a sly conjurer. Master of illusions, she alters her environment through skillful manipulation. Mirage's abilities, based in deception, are feared by her enemies. Hall of Mirrors creates copies of Mirage that mimic her every action, following her around, drawing attention and fire from enemies while also inflicting reduced damage from their weapons. Sleight of hand causes inanimate objects around Mirage to transform into irresistible traps for her enemies to fall victim to, often with deadly effect. Eclipse gives Mirage one of two enhancements when cast. In darkness, she takes less damage. In light, she deals more damage, all of which vary as illumination levels change. Don't stare directly into the light, Tenno. Prism ejects a laser-emitting crystal that bounces off various surfaces. While it consumes energy per second, Mirage can deactivate the prism, causing it to explode, blinding nearby enemies. Mirage's illusionistic art can be further developed with the use of mods. All of Mirage's abilities benefit from the inclusion of a duration mod, while Eclipse, Hall of Mirrors, and Prism can be further enhanced with strength mods. Finally, adding a range mod will increase the effectiveness of Sleight of Hand's traps and Prism's ability to affect more enemies. Do you believe in magic, Tenno? Mirage's deceiving influence on the battlefield might make you. This is Nekros, manipulator of souls. The Tenno incarnation of Shaman, he is a practitioner of death. Nekros' abilities meddle in the unknown, instilling terror on the battlefield. Soul Punch forces the target's soul out of its body, turning it into a deadly projectile, damaging all in its path. Terrify casts fear into nearby enemies, causing them to flee in terror and become susceptible to increased damage. Desecrate gives a chance the nearby corpses of fallen enemies will drop additional loot, providing extra assistance in the heat of battle. Bring out your dead, Tenno. Shadows of the Dead resurrects shadow versions of your fallen enemies to fight alongside you for a limited time. Nekros can cast a darker shadow over the battlefield with the usage of mods. Strength mods will positively affect most of Nekros' abilities. Adding duration mods will positively affect Terrify and Shadows of the Dead, while adding a range mod will further increase the effectiveness of Soul Punch and Desecrate. Nekros possesses the battlefield, Tenno. Death is his playground. This is Nova, wildly unpredictable. Her very existence is a result of Tenno High Council research. Nova's complexity is embodied in her abilities, which bend the laws of physics. Nullstar creates orbiting antimatter particles around Nova that seek out and collide into nearby enemy targets, with deadly results. Antimatter Drop releases a highly unstable and dangerous particle of antimatter that collects all incoming damage, detonating upon impact with its target, afflicting anything within range. Wormhole allows Nova to create a doorway through space, Tenno. Anyone crossing into the event horizon will immediately be teleported to the target location, friend or foe. Molecular Prime bathes all enemies within radius with antimatter. Eliminating a primed enemy will cause matter to collide, resulting in a fantastic and explosive display of destruction. Nova's grasp of exotic matter can be greatly increased via the use of mods. Equipping range and duration mods will positively affect most of her abilities, while adding a strength mod will increase the damage done by Drop, Molecular Prime, and Nullstar. Nova's presence on the battlefield is complex and deadly. Handle with care, Tenno. This is Nyx, manipulator of minds. She is an invasive force, sacrificing armor for increased power. With a penchant for confusion, Nyx can inflict mayhem into the psyche of all who oppose her. Mind control confuses its target, forcing it to turn on its own and fight for the Tenno cause. Psychic bolts are a cluster of telekinetically guided energy fragments that seek out and damage their target. Chaos is exactly as it sounds, Tenno. Causing mass hysteria, affected enemies will attack anyone within range. Absorb creates a protective sphere around Nyx, channeling all incoming damage into an explosive and deadly radial discharge. Nyx's psychic influence can be greatly increased with the utilization of mods. Equipping increased duration and range mods will benefit Mind Control, Chaos, and Absorb. Adding a Strength mod will increase the damage caused by psychic bolts. Coupled with an Efficiency mod, Nyx can slice through her enemy's defenses. On her own, or in a group, Nyx can turn the tide of battle in her favor. This is Oberon, the mystic, the willful. Once thought an ancient myth, he upholds balance on the battlefield. Oberon's abilities can protect his allies and obliterate his foes. Smite causes instantaneous damage to its target, while also forming roaming projectiles directed at nearby enemies, damaging any they contact as they bounce throughout the environment. Hallowed Ground places a deadly strip of energy directly ahead, and any enemies that step within it will submit to damage over time. Renewal emits rejuvenating projectiles that seek out allies, giving slow health regeneration over time once they reach their targets. In the heat of battle, Reckoning lifts nearby enemies up and slams them to the ground. As a result, any eliminated foes have a chance to drop much-needed health orbs. Oberon's reach on the battlefield can be increased by utilizing mods. Strength mods will increase the damage dealt or healing given by all of Oberon's abilities, while adding a range mod will increase the radius which Smite, Hallowed Ground, and Reckoning affect. Finally, adding a duration mod will positively benefit Hallowed Ground and regeneration. Oberon is an adept and honorable warrior, Tenno. Are you? This is Rhino, an immovable force and highly resilient. Specializing in crowd control, he sacrifices speed for strength. Rhino is well equipped to both deal and absorb damage. Rhino Charge propels Rhino forward in a straight line, knocking down or eliminating enemies in his path. Iron Skin protects against incoming damage while making Rhino immune to stun, stagger, and knockdown effects. Rhino Roar invigorates your allies, increasing the damage done by all teammates within its radius. When Rhino Stomp is activated, he slams the ground with an incredible force, causing damage to enemies within its range, while keeping them locked in stasis, in prime position to be taken out. Rhino's abilities scale very well, allowing for an increased impact on the battlefield. Upgrading Rhino's abilities with fusion cores will greatly increase their effectiveness against higher-level enemies. All of Rhino's abilities can be improved by equipping duration, cost reduction, and maximum energy mods to your Warframe. Combined with armor, shield, and health mods, he becomes an almost unstoppable tank. Rhino can survive alone, or become the cornerstone of any squad, Tenno. The choice is yours.
This is Sarin, elusive and deadly. Incredibly infectious and toxic, it is nearly impossible to contain her destructive nature. Sarin possesses a horrifying mix of abilities that cause disease, discomfort, and death to her enemies. Venom deposits a highly toxic spore onto her enemy, slowly infecting its target. Molt allows Sarin to leave behind a shell of her former self, drawing away fire, deceiving her enemies. Keep your enemies at arm's length, Tenno. Contagion adds incredibly toxic traits to your melee weapon, transmitting disease and plague with each hit on the enemy, causing added damage. Miasma purges the area of foreign matter, resulting in a terrifying experience for Sarin's enemies while they disintegrate from its corrosive effects. Sarin can be made even more deadly by utilizing various mods to enhance her abilities. Equipping increased strength and duration mods will drastically increase the deadliness of Venom, Contagion, and Miasma. Adding shield and health mods to Sarin will help her get into and out of even deadlier situations. Sarin is a deadly force on the battlefield. Be glad she is friend and not foe, Tenno.
This is Trinity, the healer, the equalizer. Specializing in support, she can provide much-needed reinforcements in battle. Trinity's abilities focus on restoration and preservation rather than destruction. Well of Life highlights and transfers health from its targets to Trinity or any ally who attacks it, providing restoration in the heat of battle. Energy Vampire radiates energy to nearby players every few seconds while causing damage to its target. Link reduces incoming damage away from Trinity and transfers it to nearby enemies at full strength. Did you call for backup, Tenno? Blessing immediately restores the health and shields of all teammates regardless of their position, with the addition of temporary invulnerability. Trinity is an incredible support frame, and equipping mods will help to increase her ability to assist her allies in the heat of battle. A duration mod will benefit all of Trinity's abilities, and combined with strength mods, Well of Life and Energy Vampire will see marked increases in their health and energy extraction. Adding a range mod to the mix will also increase the area of effectiveness of her healing abilities. Trinity is a must for any high-stakes mission. She'll save your life, Tenno. This is Valkyr, the Tormented, the Experiment. Forged in the labs of the Zephyr project, she redirects her anger onto the battlefield. Valkyr's abilities are wild and untethered, unleashing chaos all around her. Whipline sets forth a deadly yet useful hook. If it strikes an enemy, they are hurled towards her with fatal consequences. Otherwise, it can be used for utility and traversal. Warcry intimidates and slows Valkyr's enemies, while simultaneously rallying her allies, increasing armor and melee swing speed. Paralysis emits a burst around Valkyr, depleting half of her available shields, while stunning and damaging nearby enemies based on the amount depleted. Don't keep your rage bottled up, Tenno. Hysteria causes Valkyr to unleash a relentless torrent of melee attacks against all nearby enemies, while giving her temporary invulnerability. However, a fraction of damage taken during this time will be reflected back onto Valkyr if any enemies remain. Valkyr is rage personified, and utilizing her mods will help to increase her deadliness. Equipping a range mod will increase the effectiveness of all of her abilities, while adding strength mods into the mix will benefit Ripline, Warcry, and Paralysis. Finally, a duration mod will also enhance Warcry and Paralysis, giving her more time to destroy her enemies. Valkyr was crafted from torment, Tenno. Take control of her rage. This is Volt, a versatile warrior. A master in tactics, he can be a shocking agent of death. Volt's abilities harness the raw and unpredictable power of electricity. Shock emits a bolt of intense chain lightning, stunning and potentially killing its target and nearby enemies. Speed energizes Volt and his nearby teammates, providing increased speed and dexterity for a limited time. Electric Shield deploys a wall of energy, providing cover in any situation. It also adds limited electrical damage to most outgoing projectiles that pass through the shield. A storm is coming, Tenno. Overload releases an intense energy field, destroying nearby electronics while channeling severe electrical damage to all enemies caught within its radius. Volt, by nature, is incredibly effective against the Corpus, but the use of mods will increase his usefulness against any faction. Adding a strength mod will increase the damage output of shock and the compounding electrical effects of overload. Equipping range and duration mods will help the rest of Volt's powers become tactical assets on the battlefield. Volt's arsenal is powerful and electrifying. Handle with care, Tenno. This is Zephyr, light yet deceivingly lethal. Adept in mobility, she rarely keeps her feet on the ground. Zephyr's abilities set her into flight, causing mayhem in the process. Tailwind creates a blast of energy, propelling Zephyr through the air, damaging anything in her wake. Dive Bomb. Set Zephyr into a nosedive towards the ground, creating an explosion on impact that damages and stuns enemies within its radius. Turbulence creates a shield of wind, deflecting incoming projectiles away from Zephyr. You're not in Terminus anymore, Tenno. Tornado forms deadly twisters around nearby enemies, causing damage to all caught within. These funnel clouds can also be modified by elemental damage types to wreak even more havoc. Zephyr's aerial superiority can be further increased with the utilization of mods. Strength and range mods will benefit all of Zephyr's abilities. Further complemented by a duration mod, Tailwind, Turbulence, and Tornado's effects will last longer in battle. Zephyr brings graceful destruction to the battlefield. Look up, Tenno.
This is Vauban, focused and methodical. Vauban creates a deadly environment for his enemies. Well versed in the art of trapping, he is a master of the unexpected. Tesla allows Vauban to place an electrically charged grenade, shocking all enemies within range. Need a lift, Tenno? Bounce can be applied on any surface and provides an unexpected launch pad for anyone who triggers it, both friend and foe. Bastille will levitate your enemies, holding them in place, making them a perfect shooting target for your squad. When a vortex is triggered, enemies within range will succumb to its deadly force, crushing their atoms into a singularity and blinking them out of existence. Vauban's traps can be upgraded for greater effect via the use of mods and fusion cores. Extended duration, efficiency, and range mods will allow a greater trigger range and Tesla shock strength. An increased duration mod, coupled with fusion core upgrades, will hold higher strength enemies in place longer, allowing for increased damage to your target. Upgrading Vortex with fusion cores will increase its range and crushing power, affecting more types of enemies than before. Vauban willingly sacrifices his own safety in the name of mayhem. Use him wisely, Tenno.
This is Excalibur, a master of gun and blade. With a balance of mobility and defensive capability, Excalibur is the perfect gateway into the incredible power of the Warframes. Excalibur has uniquely balanced powers for offensive and defensive engagement. Slash Dash forces Excalibur forward, ricocheting from one enemy to the next, violently damaging them in his wake. Or use its mobile advantage for better positioning. Radial Blind stuns all enemies in your vicinity, leaving them open for deadly attacks and finishers. Even the best get surrounded sometimes. Radial Javelin launches deadly blades in all directions, skewering anyone in range, impaling them to the walls. Exalted Blade is a devastating weapon. Every swing of your blade delivers a deadly wave of energy hitting anyone in its path, its damage enhanced by your melee weapon. While Exalted Blade is active, you'll be able to stun your enemies with every melee slide attack, and if that doesn't finish the job, Slash Dash is more dangerous, doing extra damage, but be cautious of your energy, as it depletes while in use. Slash Dash, Radial Javelin, and Exalted Blade are benefited by increased strength mods, while Slash Dash, Radial Javelin, and Radial Blind all reach farther with range mods. Wield your exalted blade longer with efficiency mods. No matter your style, Tenno, Excalibur is a formidable choice. This is Equinox, a deadly duality. Divided into complementary halves, gleaming the split between day and night. Metamorphosis shifts between Equinox's forms, providing limited stat increases that decay over time. In the day form, Equinox receives increased damage and move speed, while in the night, increased shields and armor. Rest and Rage affects a target area. In the night form, enemies are put to sleep, collapsing when damaged for a period of time. In the day form, enemies gain increased movement speed, but become more susceptible to damage. Pacify and Provoke emits a radial aura. In the night form, enemies within range will deal less damage the closer they are to Equinox, with energy drain compounding per enemy within range. In the day form, Equinox grants nearby allies bonus ability strength, with energy draining with each ability cast within the aura. Break on through, Tenno. Mend and Maim affects all enemies that enter its radius. In the night form, lethal damage contributes to a pool of health that will be evenly distributed to allies upon deactivation. In the day form, your foes are initially struck with damage and begin to bleed. When deactivated, a percentage of lethal damage inflicted is released as radial slash damage. All of Equinox's abilities serve a dual purpose, and can be influenced with the installation of mods. Adding strength mods will positively affect all of Equinox's abilities. Including duration will benefit Metamorphosis and Rest and Rage. Coupled with range mods, all abilities except Metamorphosis will be affected. A true Tenno must master the divide between night and day. Do you have what it takes?